Pat Howlett, we've talked about what is a DAO. Now I want to talk about what is the Localist DAO, which I'm excited to be part of.
Well, I'll let me go back in time a little bit. A web 1020-ish kind of thing. We'll call it 1.5. I lived in North Carolina. I had moved there from Colorado. I had met you and a lot of other folks at business networking functions and all kinds of ways to try and, as a local business owner, try and get connected with other local business owners. Because as we all know, a lot of times you're alone. It's just you and your Rolodex or those kinds of things. And so we went on a journey, you and I, a journey years ago, probably closer to 15 or so now, where we used something called the Ning Network, which was pre-Facebook groups. And we had 4,983 members of that, all around the 919 area code of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, that kind of area, the Triangle, Research Triangle Park, et cetera. And I share this in that was, again, Facebook didn't even let businesses join. You couldn't have a group on Facebook. You couldn't do any of those kinds of things. And we had over 15,000 people apply to be on Inside 919. One of the requirements at that time was no anonymity. Martin Brossman had to be Martin Brossman, and Pat Howlett had to be Pat Howlett, and all the folks that joined there. And they couldn't use like their profile picture couldn't be like a bag of money. It couldn't be a Bitcoin. It couldn't be something. It had to be their face, because the whole point there was to get people together. So that's what we had success at a long time. That lasted several years. I know hundreds of businesses. That was in 2008 to 2012.
Wow.
We started in 2007, but we encompassed that when everything kind of crashed. A lot of our folks didn't crash. A lot of businesses launched. A lot of good businesses that are employing lots of people in the 919 there. So what we didn't know is, using those technologies, what we were able to do is get a whole bunch of people together, sharing things and sharing ideas and getting to know each other and meeting each other and growing their businesses. Okay, now fast forward to where we are right now. Had we had this DAO, the blockchain came in, everybody thinks blockchain is Bitcoin or Ethereum or these crazy Doge coins or whatever. I'm a blockchain guy. Certainly I like Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the other projects out there. But in frankness, there are probably over 14,000 of those things. Somebody probably needs to go to jail. They're most likely closer to Ponzi schemes than they are real projects that will have some utility or some function. And so that's the coin and token part of blockchain, okay? But there's this little carve out in there that's called Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And these are things that actually, as the name says, they decentralize organizations. They make them autonomous so they can run themselves. They run in transparency because the blockchain, everything is public, everything's transparent, everything's there visible for anyone to audit at any time, okay? If we'd have had that back in the Inside 919 days, I don't know what we would have done back there, because we had over 15,000 people in that area that lived and worked there that really wanted to do something in their community, make it better, make their business better, make themselves better, that kind of thing. So now we fast forward and we're able to do this stuff with create a DAO. And what a DAO allows you to do is decentralize it, okay? So if you think, and again, the Localist DAO has to do with the premise that centralized government in the US via the two-party system has too much control at the central level. It's not decentralized. Although the 10th Amendment, one of the original, number 10 on that list of the original amendments to the Constitution, a lot of them have happened since then, but the 10th Amendment was the one that actually said everything that the federal government doesn't do, should be done by the states and the people, okay? Well, we've never really activated that. The two-party system doesn't really want, they're okay if you use some whiteout on that 10th Amendment there, okay? And so if you look at the Federalists, certainly you want the country to defend the country, right? So you don't want somebody attacking Georgia and Georgia being on their own. So national defense, right? You want to be able to have commerce across everything. So interstate, you want to be able to travel, those kind of things. So there's a real need for centralization in a lot of things, but we feel that there's also a big need of bringing control and decisions closer to where people live and work. It's really why Congress was set up, so that these would be 300 and some odd individuals basically for around 50 miles of where people live and work, that you could elect your representative to go and do your bidding and say, here's what we have in Colorado. It's a little different than what they have in North Carolina. It's a little bit different than what they have in other states. And so doing this in the past has been close to impossible because everything thus far is a centralized thing. Even when you say, you know what we need, the two-party system is really not working well. We need another party. Well, there's probably 30 parties out there, right? Mm-hmm. There's the Green Party, there's the Libertarians, there's the Socialist Party, there's the Communist. There's all kinds of parties out there, okay? So everybody's got parties going on, but they really don't fix the core thing that's kind of the promise of the 10th Amendment, which would be moving power and control and decisions. Even in a laboratory, let's test some of these things at the local or state level before they're adopted at the national level and imposed upon everybody across everything else. So the Localist DAO actually's intention, mission, is to connect with a lot of localists. See, there's many people that think the Democrats rule everything and the Republicans rule anything. And I think many times we just pick the lesser of two evils, and that's why it always changes. You know what I mean? Who don't we dislike the most? Right. You know, and we'll put them in power for a little bit. But we rarely give any party power of everything, to whether the president, they control Senate, they control Congress. Rarely does that happen, okay? And even when that happens, there's fractional things with regards to that. But if you start looking at local food, shop local, farm to fork, credit unions, local money, okay, local community solar and energy. See, if you start looking at this gamut of real challenges out there, you start seeing that there's a lot of great ideas being done locally that we don't have to have national and centralized government imposing on it. So our thing is, could we, and you start looking at, you know, you have local Raleigh, right? There's local First Arizona. There's the Bali organization. There's the independent whatever. There's chambers of commerce. There's farmers markets on Saturday. Just went to ours this morning, got a whole bag of great stuff, you know. So there's you know, local agriculture is going to be different in Colorado. Besides us, you know, growing a lot of weed, cannabis, we also grow a lot of hemp. We grow a lot for CBD, but we grow a lot of crops, and we have a big agribusiness that ours is going to be different than, let's say, what's in California or someplace else. So the intention is to find people that aren't so strongly Democrat or Republican. They can be. But when they think about the 50 miles around where they live and work, they think about, you know, like everybody's a localist, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is our attitude when it comes to your local area. Nobody wants people to be homeless. Nobody wants an unbalanced budget in their town, their county, their state. Everybody wants fiscal responsibility when it comes to be local, and everybody wants safety nets for the folks that graduated from their high schools and are going to their community colleges and live and work in their areas and are in the theater, in their local theater, and you know, pump the gas. And so when we're thinking about the local places, still our local economies and the local things, there's a reason why you chose to live in Raleigh. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I chose to live in Trinidad, Southern Colorado, even though I lived in beautiful, you know, Franklinton, North Carolina, and love North Carolina. We pick where we want to live, where we want to do business, where we want to raise our children, we pick that most of the time. Not all the time did our car break down and now, okay, this is where I guess we're living. You know, let's sell the tires and live in the car, you know? So that's what the Localist DAO is. There are lots of folks out there that are with lots of organizations, and we don't want to replace them. We would just love to create an environment to where, through transparency and openness, almost like a cooperative, we can leverage these incredible minds that know how to do credit union and local banking, that know how to actually do, you know, food and energy and just transportation and housing and education. We know that they're all across the country, and that's where they are, and we call them localists. And when they look at national campaigns, they can pick whatever side of the ticket they want. But when they look locally to where they live and work and where other people are, we're going to connect them. We're going to invite them. We're going to provide them with what's called an NFT, a membership NFT. We can get into that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's not for investing. It's for membership and voting. one vote, we'll have organizations that can join it. And I can actually show you some of those things when we get to that point. So that's the what is it and why we're kind of doing it in a mission.
That's a great start, because this is new. This is a new territory. I'll make sure we have the link to the first video on just what is a DAO, and I want to dive into why did you create this? What is it? And then show some things so they understand, because what I've learned in teaching cryptocurrency, understanding blockchain, is that it's such a new entity, we don't have an experience enough for a reference, because we don't have a lot of references of this idea of something of value that's digital that I would own in our three-dimensional world. It's something we're learning. It's just like when people started to learn about new forms of communication, the telephone and things like that. They didn't have a reference. You might pull a string on a can, but that's different than you talking on something that's connected with electricity and someone far away hears you. And that's why I'm excited about being part of the education on this, because you got to work with it. You have to learn with it. You have to get your feet wet. And it offers a new possibility of really the people's voice being heard, the people's vote being heard. I'm extremely interested in getting the grassroots of what's important to people in Raleigh. And so I'm helping with a campaign here that's in my own district, just for the city council, because I want to make sure my little block and around neighborhood's safe. And I don't trust somebody in Washington know what's most important to me, or expect them to. So this is all connected to that.
So let me jump into that a little bit. First of all, whoever's running, God bless them. We need more people running. We don't need more people unopposed. Yeah. And so let's just look at that kind of thing from a localist perspective.
Yeah.
Is that the president represents everybody, the nation as a whole, internally and externally to the world, and internally to all of us, okay, regardless of party. That's how it's supposed to kind of be. Senators, 2 from each state. The founders actually had a good, the calculus they put together, that matrix was really smart, brilliant in some cases, okay? So every state, irrespective of big cities, they didn't want big cities to actually be almost like states, okay? So that big cities could actually just tell folks in Nebraska what to do, although they wouldn't eat without Nebraska wheat, corn, and stuff. So that's where the Senate is. So we look at those as national roles. Mm-hmm. Okay, those are national roles. They'll actually deal with what's happening in the Ukraine, where the Soviet Union is, what we need to do with China. You go down from Congress though, and Congress is actually representation of the people. That's really more the representation of local interests. And so our concern is from Congress down. And so we really want folks to understand that you should be able to run for office to be the election commissioner. Mm-hmm. To help with elections. You should be able to run to be a county commissioner, the school board, county clerk, a sheriff in your area, certainly a mayor of a town or a town council member, right? Mm-hmm. All of those roles are really important, and we've had it for a period of time. Sometimes those are like, I'm going to go for council, then I'm going to mayor, and then I'm going to run for Senate, or then I'm going to run for. So those end up being on ramps to somebody's political career when that's not what they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be kind of in and out of government. These aren't supposed to be lifetime. I'm 90 years old and I'm still a senator from Colorado, And so one of the things we want to do is encourage more people to get involved, but don't get involved from this conservative, liberal, progressive, Democrat, Republican kind of thing. Get involved with what the kids in your school district need best to compete in this ever-changing and growing world. Get involved to where that on a city council, you can help actually have an effect on parking and transit and homelessness. And let's try and find right now a middle class. Okay, now let me be clear. Pat Howlett, I'm personally a capitalist. Mm-hmm. Not the new form of capitalism where you're too big to fail, or it's crony capitalism, or it's just the same guys kind of doing their thing. No, I'm not that capitalist. I'm a capitalist with regards to risk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll take risk, you'll be able to maybe achieve in this opportunity kind of thing. So I am that, but I actually prefer cooperatives and the ownership the cooperatives can now have in small local organizations of businesses over everybody becoming an LLC or an incorporation. I like that. And so DAOs are more similar to a cooperative than they are anything else. This DAO we're putting together, Localist DAO, I guarantee you, Pat Howlett will not be in charge very long, because the whole point is not for Pat Howlett to be in charge.
Yes.
Pat Howlett won't be the guy with all the ideas. Pat Howlett will not be sitting at the end of the table all the time. I won't be that guy, because we think that we'll find gals and guys that actually are better than Pat Howlett, that actually have more experience in certain areas, that actually have brighter, better ideas. We think there'll be a lot of millennials, but a lot of boomers and a lot of X's and Y's and Z's and joining us because they love their community. So when we start looking at where we focus from the bottom up, and we submit to folks that most great ideas and things that have always taken and changed the country, the state, your town, the world, actually started at the grassroots.
Yep.
We find very little times in history where something from on high was dictated to everybody and everybody said, yeah, that's the one. Now there's some examples religiously out there, 10 commandments and those things. We have a hard time following those 10. There's just 10 of them, right? We have a hard time with those as well. But most of the stuff that ends up being work, farmers markets did not come from the top down. Local credit unions where the money will stay local started here. There was a time in our country where you actually had local stock markets, stock exchanges. You had local banking. Everything wasn't done at Wall Street. Everything wasn't extracted. We have this extractive economy. And again, I'm a capitalist, but capitalism doesn't mean you extract everything from someplace, send it someplace else, and you then now you trickle it down however you want. That's really not how it's supposed to work. So in our way of looking at it, we want more people to run for offices. We want you to get in there and do what you can do. We want you then to then move. If you want to move up the ladder, great. If you want to just tap out and say, you know what? I was on the town council. I was able to help move a couple of projects forward. I'm done. I don't want to be mayor. I don't want to be state senator. Don't want to be, I'm done. I'm going to go back. Throw me back in the briar patch, right? I want to go back like Burr Rabbit. I want to go just back what I was doing with my home, in my community, my business, gardening, whatever, hiking, whatever it is you want to do. So we really think that we can encourage more people, because sadly, our best and brightest do not run for office anymore.
Right.
They just don't.
Right.
And we'd like for you to just say, listen, if we change the dynamic, that this isn't part of the centralized power dynamic, and this is part of just local neighbors getting together to do great things for their community, like all small towns were created, right?
Right.
Throughout history, a town, ended up at one time being a campfire that was kind of safe. More people started going there. You transact business. You start doing things. Somebody says, I can grow stuff. Somebody says, I can raise stuff. And that's how these things go. So everything started from small. To us, small is the next big. Small is the next huge. Getting as small as you can get with control and some power is the next big thing, because it was always the big thing, It's the old thing of when the people lead, the leaders will follow, and what I believe. And I think this is core to it. And this is a good transition to share the screen and show us, what is this Localist DAO? Yeah. So let me share some things. We're doing this. I'm in a kind of a group with folks. Pat, 65 years old. Okay. 4 kids. I'm married 34 years. 7 grandkids. Okay. So this isn't when you can't, you're too old for this. Right. These DAOs, blockchain, things that are happening or wherever. It's really not that complicated if we break it down to things that we can, So this is from, we're running our DAO on something called Super DAO. Think of that as Windows or Mac OS. Okay. So there's operating systems for everything, whether it's a website or you run your store on Shopify or whatever it is. There's software that runs those things. So we're using Super DAO. Anybody wants to do that, Super DAO, go there, you can look at what they did. This was part of my homework for the boot camp that we're going through. So the amazing thing is, for me, is I don't have all the answers for this DAO. I don't even have all the questions for this DAO. So real simple, what's our challenge? Two-party system. We want more local control where the communities are. Early successes. We want active engagement in the forums. And we want about 1,000 advocates, 50 organizations, and 20 core members by the end of the year. These are the things we're doing. And when I say we, you and me, and we have several others joining us right now. Our path, we're going to create and launch the community forum and intro site. We've done that. We did that ceremoniously on 4th of July, kind of that independence thing going on. We're going to ready the Localist DAO on this platform. That was completed. We're going to invite 250 known and identified localists, people that are running big organizations that focus on little things, okay, across the country. That's in progress now. We're going to go then airdrop. That means we're going to give away to somebody's wallet. And Martin, you're going to be working on the MetaMask instructions for people that understand how to do that, right? But we're going to airdrop that to the first 250 folks. And then we're going to ask them, go invite people and refer people that that are in your area. And then we're going to airdrop the NFT, and I'll show that in a second, of advocates NFT to them, which actually shows your badge of what we're doing, similar to what a Rotarian or a Kiwanis person or a Chamber of Commerce. This identifies folks that they're part of this Localist DAO. And then it's with that NFT comes voting privileges. Okay. And then we're going to get to 1,000 advocates. Once we're there, we're hoping to, through the forum, hoping to get people that actually self-identify. Hey, I know blockchain. I know something about, smart contracts. Somebody says, I know something about community management. Somebody says, I know something about governance. We're making stone soup, if anybody knows the old fable of stone soup. And we think that the DAO and some of the things we're doing is the pot, is the stone, and is the water. We're hoping everybody else brings a little bit of meat and vegetables and some spice and some pepper and salt and that kind of thing. And then we're hoping to make a nice stew kind of out of it. But then once we get to 1,000 members, then we are going to actually raise money. We're going to have a treasury. Now, this won't be my treasury. Okay, this will be a multiple signature account wallet where trusted members, and these will be people in the kind of the accounting guild. So we're going to have a core members. Some of those folks will be people that know how to code and program and that kind of thing. Some of them know governance. They're going to be in that governance guild. Some of them know something about teaching, education, and training. They're going to be in the education guild, which quite frankly, you're leading the charge. But we're also going to have people that are very good at accounting and at auditing and at that sort of thing. And those folks will help run the treasury. But here's the cool thing. Because it's on the blockchain and everybody inside the DAO and outside the DAO, it's on the chain. Everybody can see that open ledger and know exactly what we're doing. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could see that from the Democratic Party, national, local, wherever, the Republican Party, some of these PACs that are out there, and we knew exactly what they were doing because we could see right in their wallet. We could see what they just did. Well, that's the level of transparency we're going to have. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is if you go to localistdao.us, because keep in mind, there are localists in the UK, there are localists in Germany, there are localists across the country, there are localists in India. We would think that Iran would be a better place if they actually listened to people locally, that Russia would be a better place if they actually listened to people locally in their areas. So we think localism is everywhere, but we're focused on the US. This is what we understand. That's where we think we can be dynamic. So if you go to, this is where somebody that gets invited, this is their first stop. They will be invited to go look at the localistdao.us. And when they're here, they're going to be able to see that this is the discussion forum that we have. And these are the NFTs that we have. We have an NFT for advocates. Everybody's an advocate. Some people are going to be from advocates. They're going to be invited to be in the core team because they want to actually help run the DAO and help that at that operational level. Okay. And then there'll be organizations, and just that would be, First Local Arizona or Shop Raleigh or any of those kinds of things. Big chambers of commerce, any organization we know has something on local. But we have on here. So what somebody does is they'll have to apply. And if somebody says, you're sure making that hard, here's the thing. We're kind of in the political space, and that's a nasty, muddy game. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough on the candidates. It's tough on the people that are out there. It's tough on people that just are trying to help at a voting booth. You know what I mean? It's tough. And so what we're trying to do is, if you're really, really, really on the right wing or the left wing, and you really want to impose your thinking on folks, we're probably not a good fit. It's probably good to move on. Don't troll us. We're not going to troll you. We probably won't ever see you, because you'll be focused on control at the high level, and we'll be focused on control, some limited control at the lower level. But folks will actually have to apply. When they apply, there will be a kind of a membership committee, that same as what would happen at a Chamber of Commerce or at a Kiwanis Club, right? Same kind of process that we have at local levels. If they're accepted, then they'll be encouraged to join our forum. They'll be encouraged to set up a MetaMask wallet. It runs on Polygon rather. And then we will airdrop their NFT to them. Now, in order to us to airdrop that to you, you have to have a wallet. And again, these NFTs are going to be on OpenSea. Don't worry about what I'm saying. They're going to be on very public available places. Everything we do is in the public. Our books are opened up, okay? And so next you'll be invited to go to our discussion forum, our community forum. And this is where folks can actually talk about, they'll introduce themselves, they'll apply for membership, they can actually get involved in the treasury or governance, or this is where we'll add some things. And here's the thing, and I'll show this in a little bit, but most of the things that are going to be done won't be done from top down. So proposals, somebody that's a new member, advocate, or anything of the DAO can propose something. They can propose some direction. They can propose that we rewrite our manifesto, our vision, our whatever. And Pat and Martin don't decide where that is. It gets up for vote. And whoever decides on that. If we end up having a treasury with funds, and somebody can propose that we actually take some of those dollars and do something with it. And if the membership decides that that's what they want to do, and again, all these things not open to the public, but you can see not open to the public to vote. You have to have an NFT to vote. But the things we do will be very transparent to anybody on the blockchain, okay? So if we start looking down here, here's some of the big challenges: broadband and banking and food and healthcare and housing, and and then here, what we want to start doing is then activating. If you look at trying to do some of these things on a LinkedIn group, or you even think about doing this on a Facebook group, anybody who's done that knows how just chaotic that is, how lack of control you have, and how actually you can be shut down by just having conversations because you used a word that has been identified as a bad word, but the way we may use it here is just an identified word we're going to use. So we control this, the DAO, not Pat, the DAO, and then there will be governance and community guild, those folks, that area of people that are very good at this, they'll actually be the ones administering all of this, okay? But I'm in Colorado, so there's things in Colorado that we do differently than what things that happen in North Carolina. We may be ahead of you in some things. We may be behind you in some things. You guys may be working on things that, quite frankly, if we had some contact there, we may be able to fast forward that benefit to Colorado and vice versa, right? We can actually have all 50, and we actually have Guam and Puerto Rico. They are territories, but these are U.S. citizens, okay? And they need to have a voice in Puerto Rico and Guam with regards to how things are there. So we have all these areas here. So this is the next thing. Once you're in here, we want you to be active and engaged. We want you to bring things there, share stuff, what's going on in your area. If it's in your area specific, put it in your state. Please don't go to another person's state and start, trolling them. That's not what we do. Try and keep these things for where, if I see something in North Carolina, I don't mind going in and say, great idea, we're taking that to Colorado. But I don't really want to get into a debate with somebody in North Carolina about things that North Carolinians are really trying to work on. That's not what we're trying to do. Everything isn't up for debate. Now, most things are up for compromise, but not everything needs to be a debate or a fuss or a fight, Okay, so now once you're in here and you've been active and you know that you're just trying to be a neighbor. Look at these folks as neighbors, okay? Fellow citizens. And so next thing you're going to do is you're going to be, this is where the DAO's business. So the community discussion and forums, That's where we get to know things. We share idea, those things. This is actually the DAO software where Localist DAO does the blockchain stuff. So this is where folks will be able to, again, we're giving away these advocate things. There's going to be 5,000 to start with. If the DAO decides we want that to be 50,000, there'll be a proposal for that to go. Hopefully we go from 5,000 to 7,500, and we just keep incrementally growing along the way. We're going to have 1,000 organizations to start with that can join. Now, there may be a time later on where we find that doesn't work. If there's a proposal said, listen, we need to make this down to 50 or 500, well, then the DAO will, the organization, the group, everybody will help decide what that is. And core members, we have 50. This could be 10. It could be more. But again, those are the folks that actually, like in any organization, like in a church, you'll have leadership in a church. Like in a cooperative, you'll have leadership in that. Like in a Kiwanis club, you do need people that have functional jobs in here, okay? And in time, as we grow the treasury, the DAO will be able to decide to reward people through the funds in the DAO. The same way as most other things work out that way. The Democrats and the Republicans, they have people at the top of the things. The NFL Players Association has people at the top running the operation. So we'll have folks helping run the operation. But here's where members will be. I don't want to do that right now because it's kind of private information. The treasury, well, actually, this is where folks are. I think I threw a couple of bucks in here to get it going. So yeah, so this was $200, but you know where the market is right now. It's down. So we have some money in here. This was a donation. And it's not my money. It's the DAO's money. Okay. This is Matic. We run on the Ethereum network. Okay.
Yay.
We run on the Ethereum network. That's what's called an L1. It's the first layer. And then we run on an L2, a layer 2 called Polygon. And their token is called Matic right here. Okay. So if somebody's looking out there, the currency we run on is Matic. Okay. And so we have that. The feed, as we do things as a group, it's there. And consider this more of the archive. Things from the discussion forum could come over here. Mm-hmm. Voting ends up being proposals. So certainly things that are in the discussion community will come over here. And this is just junk right now, dummy data, okay?
Placeholder,
exactly. So this may very well be where somebody would add a proposal. They're going to click on add a proposal if they're a member. They're going to be able to go in here and say, listen, I think we should limit the number of advocates we have from 5,000 to 2,500 right now. Somebody else could say, you know what, why aren't we letting more people? Why don't we have 50,000 people in here? Those will be proposals. They'll be put in here. The voting type, image, somebody would actually put, and you can't just put a thing and say, I think we should go to 50,000. That's probably going to get voted down. Mm-hmm. What's the problem? How do you see the problem? What do you see as a solution? How do we all benefit from your solution? These actually need to be proposals that are well thought out because you're trying to move an organization forward. So these won't be, quick things. How to vote, when it starts, when it ends, and the majority kind of rules in here. Okay, so that's how this DAO, that's how this kind of will be. Okay, so settings, we don't really need to go in there, but so we look at this again, and I'll kind of go through it. We have where somebody comes and applies. Yep. Step 1, step 2. And again, when you go to apply, you can look it up. We have the Constitution here. We have our vision statement here. We have things that you should be able to look at. And we're adding to that all the time. From here, if you want to apply after this, you're going to get invited to go here and engage and do things, etc. And from here, we're going to move the governance part of it, the voting and the treasury. Think of these things that discussions of here turn into ideas and thoughts that need to be moved forward. Those get turned into proposals. Proposals get voted on. And those that need to be funded get funded by the Treasury.
And this last one is where we're interfacing with the blockchain directly. The other two treat it like buildings outside the blockchain of discussions. The first one's a notification website, information to sign up. The second one is a separate entity. It's a discussion group. It's one you found is a good tool to use as a discussion. And now we're in the inner circle where the work's being done, interfacing with the blockchain.
That's exactly right. And when we say blockchain, that truly does mean, I want people to get their head around here, totally transparent. Everything that's on chain. So your thoughts should be, they're talking about this, and if they say off chain, so there's been some bankruptcies and those kind of things in crypto and blockchain, especially in CFI, centralized finance. Mm-hmm. If that stuff had been on chain, we'd have all known it. Okay, but because that stuff was done off chain, a lot of banks and Wall Street messed us up in 2008 when they got really greedy, and we couldn't see what was going on, and the mortgage crisis hit. And the mortgage crisis hit, everything was affected with a domino in that. Had that all been on chain where we could have seen it, we'd have known probably in 2006 that was going in the wrong direction, right? So we know those kinds of, we know that things on chain are visible. It's like me giving you my company's books and saying, here, there's no two sets of books. Here's our books. Go ahead and audit it. Go ahead and look at it. So that's really where we as DAO members really need to have comfort to understand that there isn't a behind closed doors. There isn't any of those things. The majority of the business is done. Now that doesn't mean people in North Carolina can't get together off chain, offline, go talk to their own. So you can talk to folks in your own Zoom there. We're not saying you can't do any of those off chain things. Please do. Help with a food bank. Help run for public office in your area. Help the school board. Do all those kind of things. That's the off-chain work we want to get done. We just want folks to know that the on-chain work, you'll be as involved as me. Somebody else will be. There'll be a lot of other faces. We hope to fill up this Zoom thing with lots of incredible, diverse faces of everybody. Because the promise of that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it didn't have a tag to it. Did say, if you are this, then you get life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We do know that's supposed to be applicable to all.
There's several payoffs I see immediately with this. For me, it's not a question because I'm an advocate of get the power communication back down to the micro level. To me, the only way to make the whole country work is every local group is empowered in doing what takes care of them first, and then builds out from there, from the ground up. And if you look at history, all the change from I was named after Martin Luther on happened from that level. It was the middle class going, enough. Okay, we need to get involved. And so all major change really did start at that level. And there's so many exciting things about this, like the concept of transparency adding to integrity. The idea of this gets us down to facts. Whenever we get down to what's core as a human being, like I care about my kids, I care about the safety of my neighborhood, I care about this thing. What happens is we start agreeing more than disagreeing. When we chunk up to the high levels of, well, you're a blue and I'm a red, that's when we start becoming unconscious, getting polarized. We aren't open to new ideas and tunnel vision. I see this as a disruptor to that. Very important for people. Also as a learning tool. Some people, we haven't had enough education on how to work together in an organized way and make decisions, not in an anarchy way, but actually, okay, we agree to disagree right now. Let's see what others have to say. This is a training tool for people to understand and learn about the capability of a DAO and using the blockchain as well, if they have a passion about their own community. So I'd like to move into who's to be involved, who are we looking for, and what's the payoff, including what I just said.
Well, that's, by the way, you hit a bunch of things there. And again, I would challenge anybody to find anything that the top down worked and we're still loving it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in every society, in every language, in every area, the stuff that actually really has an effect. Now, that doesn't mean that lots of countries and lots of organizations, religions and lots of things aren't forcing things from the top down. Doesn't mean that's not happening. But we find out those are the bad things most of the case. Mm-hmm. But we do find in all countries and all languages and across the globe and across history, when things happen, just imagine, instead of folks going in and wanting to fight about the big national issues, mm-hmm. because after 50 years of the Supreme Court saying something about abortion, it was never resolved in that thing. Their decision never, only to not be resolved. I in that issue are more confident that people living in states and people talking to people in their own states will have a better success of compromise and reasonability and those kinds of things at that level than two parties deciding how to beat each other up over those issues and using them as just a football. I also think that when we start thinking about where our money goes, where we invest money, certainly those decisions are better. A local area knows if that bridge needs to be fixed, or if they have streets downtown, or they're leaking water from their pipe. They know where money needs to be in it. And always having to go and get a grant to fix something that's defined in that doesn't always make the local area kind of better. But we do know if we had people going and on school boards, metropolitan districts, county commissions, task forces, and they weren't thinking of the national issues or bringing that baggage with them when they're talking about the school board or what they need to do at the county commissioner's office, or what they need to do with their town council, their school books, those kind of things. And they were just thinking about what's in the best interest of the people who live and work here within 50 miles of us or in our jurisdiction. And they didn't bring all that other baggage. We're going to actually have more reasonable minds, reasonably prudent people sitting there, because they also see what's going on in their community. They know how to prioritize those things. Doesn't mean we will agree, but it does mean we will not bring all that baggage that we fight red and blue all the time, only to find out that Martin and I may disagree on gun control. But gosh, on lots of other things, we agree 100%. And when it comes to our area, we want kids to be able to go to our schools safely and productively, and let them go to the next level of their learning or their job or whatever, as productive and happy as they can be. We all agree on a lot of those things locally, whether we agree on the top big issues of should we go to war with this? What do we need to do with China? What's going on with Russia? How are we spending money on the Ukraine? Quite frankly, in many cases, somebody tell me if we've ever accomplished any of those things.
Well, the biggest thing in my experience growing up in D.C. is many of the cause I fought for that I saw being run by Washington within 5 years was doing the counter of what I fought for. I mean, the war on drugs, there could be a discussion, brought on more drugs than anything in history. I mean, I don't mean to be political, but it's like when you get disconnected from the people enough, you tend to actually get the opposite of what you started with. That's why it's so important that we have something, even if we're just doing it as an educational tool, to start experiencing how do we actually get actively involved in our community. My favorite quote is, evil prevails when good people stay silent. Okay, well, we can't change the whole world, but we can, like my local park, Shelley Lake Park, had some crime. So I started Shelley Lake Park Fans. I reached out to the city, said, we're doing it. Now these wonderful photographers are there. We've got an education. They were trying to put a building in. At least we got an organized vote going. And our interest is keep the park within walking distance of us safe and enjoyable for everyone. That's the type of stuff I want to be part of, because that's what I see. It's sort of the only place I see hope is we got to start from the ground up.
So take the two examples you just have, the war on drugs. Yeah. You've seen with the war on drugs, how some of that war on drugs affected negatively lives in local communities, i.e. Chicago.
Right.
And affected lives in communities, that kind of thing, coming top down. When, if you take your other example of the park and things you do, those kind of things, those things actually have a lot of fruit that comes from the roots. You know what I mean? So most of the time, again, I don't want to beat that horse too much, but most of the time, the things that we look at, all you needed to do, see, you didn't need permission from anybody to help make the park safe. You didn't need anybody to okay it. You didn't need somebody to actually say, okay, here's your budget for that. You needed citizens around that park to say, this park is important to us. We're going to reclaim ownership of it by participation, by being there. If we're on the park, there's less crime. If we leave the park, all the drug folks there and all the bad folks will take over the park because we've given up ownership. If we all take our kids out there and we go out there and we frisbee it, those folks will find out there's just too much activity out in that park. It's not a great place for crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Reclaiming these things doesn't require us to take permission.
Yeah.
You know, if we were coming at this a little differently, and the whole idea, like Andrew Yang, he ran for the Democratic, president this last time. Andrew's a smart guy, but his solution to that, since he didn't get elected in there, is to start a new party, and it's the Forward Party. You got the left part, you got the left, you got the right. His thing is forward. That kind of sounds marketing wise good, but the whole point there is what? To create a whole nother thing for another group of folks to run for president. The power is not at the presidency. The power is not at the Senate level. The power should be at Congress level, but we've allowed them to actually become nationalists rather than localists,
right? Rather
than where they are. But the power really is with the people. And again, I just ask anyone to go look at the 10th Amendment. Here's what the 10th Amendment says. 10th Amendment, there was 10 amendments that were core amendments, and then things started being added to that later on, had to be voted on, 2/3 majority, etc. But this one's part of the first 10 from the founding fathers, okay? And if you look at the ones above that, well, those had a lot to do with the grievances, free speech, right to assemble, right to bear arms, rights for somebody not to take over your house and put their soldiers in there, the right to actually have due process and not somebody be able to do. That's what precedes the 10th Amendment, things we'd want. But the 10th Amendment says the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. That means the central government, nor prohibited by it to the states. So states aren't going to do national defense, right? States aren't going to be in charge of interstate commerce, right? That's federal stuff. So the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively and to the people. Now, here's my whole thing with regards to why I'm a localist, why I'm doing this localist thing, why I invite people to actually join us, is that we need to activate something that's already in the Constitution. We do not need to ask for permission like you didn't need to help save the park and make it safe. What we need to do is remind folks that this 10th Amendment is voided and overlooked by national parties because it's not in their interest. If they were able to get rid of it, they would. But it's there. It's on the original parchment, okay? And it says that those things that aren't supposed to be done at the federal level should be done at the state level and should be decided by the people at the state level. Well, that's our mission. That's our mandate. We are actually organized. Localist DAO is actually organized by our founding documents of the country, not by any founding documents Martin or Pat put together. All we're saying is there's a 10th Amendment out there. We need to remind those we elect, those we hire to represent us. We need to remind them that that's very important. Yes, you guys should be taking care of the national economy. Yes, you guys should be taking care of national defense and what we do. Yes, you guys need to focus on China because I can't do that from Trinidad's, southern Colorado. Yeah, you guys need to focus on interstate highways, on our ports, and on there's a lot of things you could do right there really well that we can't do. If you need us, we're here. But you really don't need to focus on the things that are local as much. We need to take back that stuff, and we are empowered to do that by the founding documents, by the founding fathers that people in theory hold to be true. We're empowered by the 10th Amendment. Just read that thing and you'll say, okay, they've been getting away with this because we've allowed folks to get away from that. And quite frankly, up until blockchain, I'm going to say, and up until recently, we really didn't have a way to organize that was transparent, that was visible, that truly was autonomous and decentralized. The blockchain allows that to happen. Now, whether you like Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of those crazy coins, or that doesn't matter. I don't like a lot of stocks on the stock market, and I don't like how we print money. Okay, I don't like our current finance system. I think that's what's gotten us in trouble. Okay, but I don't care. What I do think is Martin should be able to help around his park and around Raleigh, and Pat should be able to help around Trinidad and Los Animas County in southern Colorado, and my neighbors in New Mexico that we work with. See, we work really closely because we're on the border with New Mexico. We don't see the lines there because we share water, we share some land, we share some heritage, we share some history. So borders aren't really as important when you get local, you know?
Yep.
So I just want folks to understand that. So who should be a local? Well, you already are a local. So if you care about your local area,
Yep.
So who, if you really want to make positive change, that doesn't mean that we're trying to take over the emperorship, that we're trying to be the president, that we're trying to, no, we're not. We're trying to take back. We're not trying to take over anything. We're trying to take back things that were supposed to be ours from the very beginning. So if you believe that, and you don't want to fight Democratic politics on somebody, you don't want to fight Republican politics on somebody, you don't want to blue and red paint dye everybody all the time, then you know what? Leave those things on the national side and come on in and let's experiment. Let's have some best ideas. Let's figure out some things. Let's connect some folks across the country. Let's actually utilize this public ledger and the ability of one person, one vote, without PACs and without parties and without any of those kind of things, and with no aspirations. We have no aspirations to ever get into any of that stuff. None. We just want to run the 10th Amendment. We want to be the standard bearers for the 10th Amendment. And what that means is I in Colorado, as an American citizen, but a citizen of the state of Colorado, should not have undue influence on you in North Carolina, or somebody in a small state like South Dakota or North Dakota, or somebody in a big state like California, Texas, New York, and Florida. The folks there actually know best about their water, their agriculture, their business climate, their challenges, those kinds of things. They are truly the best experts for fixing that. It's really interesting. We send people to Washington, and we send good people there. I don't think we're always sending bad people to Washington. I don't think we have these are all bad people. But I think that absolute power corrupt things is a true statement. And I think when folks get there, the environment that's there, the culture that's there, the way you have to get along, the way you have to do kind of things, how you have to be able to do things, I think that just corrupts good people, and it makes it to where hardly anything will ever happen that affects back to the 50 miles of where that representative lives and works. In many cases, interestingly enough, you go to Washington as a regular person, you come out of Washington having mansions and gated communities and guards and incredibly big stock portfolios. And, you know, it's
been there, seen it happen live, growing up in the city. I was born.
It's amazing how that works, right? It's amazing how that kind of stuff works. But you know, again, that's our shield. That's what we want to bring into the fray, and we think we can have positive impacts on 50 miles around where you live and work. And I'll try and do it where I live and work. Yeah. Martin will do it where he lives and works. So if that resonates with you, and you understand that we don't have all the answers, and you understand we're on the cusp of something launched really new. It's kind of like when the internet, I was an internet service provider back in 1996, 2,400 baud modems. When we had 4,800 baud modems, we were like, oh, we're tearing it up. Nobody was going to put their credit card into a website.
Right.
Nobody. And I'm not going to be, this is an adult audience. So the only people who were putting their credit cards at that time into websites were porn and gambling sites.
Right.
But you weren't buying anything from Amazon or anything else. You were. Now your credit card is on so many websites. Remember that you buy things with one click. We're at that early trustless or trusted side where you have to trust, but we can be trustless. You can trust us because we're on the blockchain. It's all right there. You're going to be part of it. And I tell you what, I'm excited about it. 65 years old, 66 this November. As excited as I've been at anything I've been able to do for my community, my kids, my grandkids, somebody else's grandkids, somebody else's grandkids that aren't even here right now, and maybe will be born in 2040 and well after I'm down and gone. This is work that matters. It matters. And so I think there's a whole bunch of people that have been looking for something that isn't cultish. It doesn't mean you have to hate somebody. There isn't a whole bunch of stuff to go through. I think people are going to be excited by this, Martin.
Yes, and I am. And we'll have links below to learn more. We've gone through the steps. Pat, this was an exciting time. And I just look forward to co-creating with other people and learning and going, what is it take for us to actually work together, and
Right.
this is such a great opportunity. I want to thank you for initiating it. We've known each other for many years, and we've done a lot of projects together, and
Yep.
I am on board and passionate about this, as I am local small businesses, small towns, and the importance of us reclaiming our own power as American citizens of a voice in our community and not tolerating anything else, where we're going, hey, I'm here. I care about my family. Do you care? Okay, let's find a way to work together.
That's exactly right. So I'm sure you're going to put a link down below, but if anybody's interested, you start the journey with us at localistdao.us.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a Twitter account. You're probably going to see in the early days too much of me.
Right.
I look forward to that not being the case, and you seeing all kinds of shapes and sizes of faces and colors and diversity. And I hope you start seeing, us there in the early days. Hopefully you don't see too much of me and you're okay with me for a little bit, but we'll find the best and brightest will be the ones that actually will be seen more. And again, come on the journey. We've got an NFT with your name on it.
That's it. Great.
As long
Thanks
as your
so
name
much.
say, hey, thanks,
Excellent.
Martin.
Thanks again. This was wonderful.
Take care.
Take care.